Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. He was born in Rio Negro, Colombia, you see. This was back in 1949. His family was not rich, not at all. His father, Abel de Jesus Escobar Echeverri, was a simple farmer. His mother, Hermilda Gaviria, worked as a school teacher. They lived a humble life, a modest one. But young Pablo, he had big dreams. He saw the poverty around him, and he wanted something different for himself. He was ambitious, even as a small boy. This burning desire for more, it started very early. It would shape the man he became, truly. The family later moved to Envigado, a suburb of Medellin. This is where Pablo's journey into crime began. He started with small things, petty crimes. He would sell fake lottery tickets to unsuspecting people. He smuggled contraband cigarettes, learning the ropes of illegal trade. There were stories even of him stealing tombstones from cemeteries. He would then sandblast them clean and resell them. He was not afraid of getting his hands dirty, not one bit. The streets became his school, and he was a very quick learner indeed. Every little hustle, every small con, it taught him valuable lessons for his future. Soon enough, these small-time crimes were not enough for him. His ambition was growing too fast. He wanted bigger scores, more money, more influence. So he graduated to stealing cars. He became quite well known for this in Medellin's growing underworld. He was smart and organized his operations well. He built a small crew of loyal followers around him. A reputation started to build up. People in the criminal circles, they began to notice this young man. He was cunning, always thinking several steps ahead. He understood risk, and he was not afraid to take it when needed. The real shift into serious crime came with kidnappings. This was a dangerous game, but the rewards were high. He famously kidnapped a wealthy Medellin industrialist, Diego Echevarria, in the early 1970s. The story goes that he got a handsome ransom for Echevarria's release, though Echevarria was later found dead. This act, it sent a clear message. It made Pablo Escobar a name to be reckoned with in the Colombian underworld. It showed everyone he was ruthless, that he meant serious business. This was a definite turning point, a bloody step into the major leagues of organized crime. The 1970s, they brought a new kind of storm to Colombia. Cocaine. This white powder, it was like the new gold rush. Pablo Escobar, he saw the immense opportunity. He saw the rivers of money that could flow from it. Unbelievable amounts of money, more than anyone could imagine. He knew deep down that this was his true calling, his ticket to the big time. So he began to shift his focus. He left behind the car thefts and the petty rackets. He aimed straight for the heart of the burgeoning drug trade. Cocaine was calling his name, and he was ready to answer. He started, as many do, in a relatively small way. He began by smuggling coca paste. This paste was sourced from neighboring countries like Peru and Bolivia. He would then have it processed in clandestine laboratories hidden in the Colombian jungles, turning it into pure, high-grade cocaine. Once he had the product, the next challenge was getting it to the market. The biggest market by far was the United States. Miami in Florida became the primary gateway. He meticulously planned and established his smuggling routes, by air and by sea. He was a careful planner, a real innovator in this dark business. But Pablo Escobar was not a man who liked to work alone for long. He understood the power of alliances. He joined forces with other ambitious traffickers. Men like the Ochoa brothers, Jorge Luis, Juan David, and Fabio, Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha, known as El Mexicano, and Carlos Later, who had connections and bold ideas about transportation. Together, they formed the infamous Medellin cartel. They were a powerful, fearsome organization. They controlled every aspect of the cocaine business, from the coca fields to the streets of American cities. They were a well-oiled machine, a corporation built on immense greed and brutal fear. The sheer scale of their operation was breathtaking. At their peak, the Medellin cartel supplied an estimated 80% of the cocaine smuggled into the United States. Pablo Escobar became the undisputed kingpin. He had a simple, chilling policy for dealing with opposition plata o plomo, silver or lead. This meant you either accepted his bribe and looked the other way, or you faced a bullet. Many officials, judges, and policemen took the silver. Many others who resisted or stood in his way faced the deadly lead. The cartel ruled with an iron fist, spreading its influence far and wide. The money, it just kept pouring in. So much money, it was hard to even count. Pablo Escobar became one of the richest men the world had ever seen. Forbes magazine, the famous American business publication, even listed him as a billionaire for several years running. He had achieved the kind of wealth he had only dreamed of as a poor boy in Rio Negro. He could buy anything he wanted. Palatial houses, luxury cars, entire fleets of airplanes. He had more money than he could ever possibly spend in 100 lifetimes. It was a mountain of cash, truly a staggering fortune. He spent his money lavishly, as you would expect. His most famous possession was Hacienda Napoles. This was a vast, sprawling ranch covering thousands of acres. He built a private zoo there, filled with exotic animals from all over the world: elephants, giraffes, hippos. He threw extravagant parties that lasted for days. But all that cash created a problem too. How to hide it, how to launder it. He buried millions in plastic barrels in the Colombian countryside. He stashed it in the walls of his houses. Sometimes the money would simply rot, or rats would eat it. That's how much there was. Despite his brutality, Pablo tried to cultivate an image as a man of the people, a kind of Colombian Robin Hood. He understood the power of popular support, especially among the poor. He sponsored the construction of housing projects in Medellin. The most famous of these was the Barrio Pablo Escobar, where thousands of previously homeless people got new houses. He gave money to local churches. He funded community initiatives and sponsored children's football teams. For these actions, some people in Medellin, especially in the poorer neighborhoods, they loved him. They saw him as a benefactor, a savior even, and they often protected him from the authorities. But money and popular support were not enough for Pablo Escobar. He craved legitimacy. He wanted real power, the kind that came with political office. In 1982, he managed to get himself elected as an alternate member of Colombia's Chamber of Representatives. He thought this would give him immunity, make him untouchable. He dreamed of one day becoming the president of Colombia. However, this move into politics also shone a brighter spotlight on him. It made him an even bigger target for his enemies, both within Colombia and internationally. The government, the press, and the world, they were all watching his every move very closely now. The Colombian government, pushed by its own conscience and by intense pressure from the United States, finally decided that enough was enough. They declared an all-out war on Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel. But Pablo, he was not one to go down without a fight. He fought back with unimaginable ferocity. He declared war on the Colombian state itself. Car bombs exploded in the streets of Bogotá, Medellin, and Cali, killing hundreds of innocent civilians. He ordered the assassinations of countless politicians, prominent judges, brave police officers, and outspoken journalists. Anyone who dared to stand in his way became a target. Colombia bled profoundly because of his bloody war. For a brief period, Escobar surrendered to the authorities in 1991. But it was a surrender on his own terms, a complete farce. He was imprisoned in a luxurious, custom-built prison called La Catedral. He had designed it himself, and he controlled it completely. It was more like a private fortress resort than a jail. He continued to run his vast cocaine empire from within its walls. When the government finally decided to move him to a proper, more secure military installation in 1992, Pablo simply walked out. He escaped with ease. It was a massive national embarrassment for the Colombian government, showing how deep his influence ran. After his escape from La Catedral, the hunt for Pablo Escobar intensified like never before. A special Colombian police unit, known as the Search Block, was formed with the sole purpose of capturing or killing him. They received extensive training, intelligence, and resources from the United States government. At the same time, a shadowy vigilante group called Los Pepes emerged. Los Pepes stood for People Persecuted by Pablo Escobar. This group was made up of his drug trafficking rivals, paramilitaries, and others whom he had wronged. They waged a brutal war against Escobar's network, killing his associates and destroying his properties. Pablo was on the run, his empire crumbling around him. He lost his power and immense wealth and most of his loyal men. The end came on December 2, 1993. The Search Block, using radio triangulation technology, located Pablo Escobar in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin. A fierce shootout erupted as they cornered him on a rooftop. Pablo Escobar, the king of cocaine, was shot and killed. His death marked the end of a dark and violent era in Colombian history. For many, he was a despicable monster, a narco-terrorist who had plunged their country into chaos and grief. Yet for some of the poor folks he had helped, he remained a controversial, almost mythical hero. His legacy, it's incredibly complicated, isn't it? Colombia is still working to heal from the deep scars he left behind. And the global drug trade, well, that unfortunately continues.